evening, everyone. My name is Ajay. I'm PGP1 student. Before we begin the proceedings, I request everyone to put their cell phones in silent mode. We are going to listen to the 10th leadership lecture on transforming nations with passions by Dr. Anil Menon. You may be aware that the lecture series is running into its 4th successful year. I now call upon our chief guest, Dr. Anil Menon, and with that I also request Dr. H.S. Balal, our director, Dr. R.C. Natarajan, Professor Vasudev Rao, and Professor Chaudhary Prasad to light the lamp, please. I now request everyone to rise for the invocation song.
Gajananayutam Ganeshwaram Gajananayutam Ganeshwaram Bhajami Satatam Sureshwaram Shri Gajananayutam Ganeshwaram Ajendra Pujita Vigneshwaram Ajendra Pujita Vigneshwaram Ganati Sannuta Padapatmakaram Gajananayutam Ganeshwaram Gajananayutam Ganeshwaram. This prayer is a tribute to Lord Ganesha. It means, I constantly sing the praise of Ganeshwara, the elephant-faced, who is the Lord of Devas, who is worshipped by Brahma and Indra, remover of obstacles, whose lotus-like feet and hands are worshipped by Bhutaganas, who exhibited his skill in vanquishing Kunjara. He is the elder brother of Guru Guha and is of the form of Pranava. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheena. I request Chavi to extend floral welcome to Dr. Anil Menon. I request Shruti to extend floral welcome to Dr. H.S. Balal. Thank you, Chavi. Thank you, Shruti. I now invite our director, Dr. R.C. Natarajan, for the welcome address.
Respected Dr. H.S. Balal, President of today's function, Dr. Anil Menon, Chief Guest, invitees, members of media, faculty and staff colleagues, and my dear students. I am privileged to welcome you all to today's 10th Leadership Lecture of Transforming Nations with Passion, to be delivered by our Chief Guest, Dr. Anil Menon, President-Globalization, Smart plus Connected Communities, CISCO Systems Incorporated, Bangalore. You will agree with me that TAPMI fraternity has been having the opportunity of listening to eminent personalities and thought leaders on diverse topics of currency in its Silver Jubilee Leadership Lecture Series, commenced in the year 2009. Speakers at the previous 9 occasions included global personalities such as Salman Khurshid, Union Minister, Rajdeep Sardesai, Editor-in-Chief of IBN 18 Network, Manish Sabarwal, Sri M.K. Narayanan, Governor of West Bengal, B.R. Shetty, Nirupama Rao, the erstwhile Foreign Secretary, Dr. Harish Hande, Social Entrepreneur, Mr. S. Shivakumar, the man behind eChowpal of ITC, and Mrs. Chitra Ramakrishna of National Stock Exchange. Dr. Anil Menon, we are proud to have you addressing us on an extremely pertinent topic to the academic fraternity of TAPMI and Manipal. You have chosen to demystify the word transformation of nations with passion, blended, perhaps sharing your confrontations across the globe in your 2 avatars, both as an academician in the past and as a corporate leader in the international arena today. I am sure you will enjoy addressing this group of audience. Welcome you all to today's lecture.
Thank you, sir. I now invite Dr. H.S. Ballal, Pro-Chancellor, Manipal University, and a member of TAPMI Trust for the presidential address.
Thank you. Our chief guest of this evening, Dr. Anil Menon, the director of TAPMI, Dr. Natarajan, faculty members of TAPMI, and my dear students. First of all, I would like to thank Natarajan for allowing me to speak before Anil Menon, because I was told he's a very brilliant speaker. So, you know, it is very, very difficult to speak after a good speaker. So, thank you, Natarajan, for giving me this opportunity to speak earlier. Otherwise, normally, the protocol is the presiding officer speaks after the chief guest speaks. So, TAPMI, you are all management people, you go on changing the management to suit the needs, Anyway, it is a blessing in disguise for us. No, I am really happy to participate in this 10th leadership lecture to be delivered by a very, very eminent person, I am told, heading the CISCO portion of India. He is based in Bangalore. I had a brief interaction with him right now. And these leadership seminars are very, very important, because basically you are all going to be the future leaders of our country. So all the more reason you should know how a leader should be. According to me, he should lead from the front, and he should command respect and not demand respect, And they say you should never use the word I. It should be we, because it is teamwork. They say united we win and divided we fall. And the credibility is very, very important, People should believe you, because you cannot be fooling all the people all the time, they say. Credibility. See, there are 3 types of people in the world. One is people who just preach but don't practice. Unfortunately, most of our politicians belong to that category. But I would rather tolerate such people. The other most dangerous tribe is people who practice exactly the opposite of what they preach. These are the most dangerous people, Unfortunately, their number is increasing. And the last rare tribe is people who practice what they preach. Now, we want leaders who should practice what they preach. Then only you will have credibility, and people will believe you, and people will follow you. Because leaders are decided by the followers, not by anybody else. They will tell whether you are a good leader or a bad leader. A good leader, you should always think of your country first, then about your organization, and then about self. But in our country, many people think the other way around. See, Japan today is a very, very progressive nation, basically because they think always of their country first, then about their organization, about themselves last. Even during strikes and all, they never stop working, which happens very frequently in this country. They wear a black badge. They show their discontent, but they will never stop production. That is very, very important. You see a lot of bunds in this country, so that the entire country comes to a standstill. Recently, we had a bund because of diesel hike and things like that. So it is very important that we should set an example for others to emulate. Then only you can be called as a good leader. A leader should be understood by the people and not adored, because admiration will isolate you and disconnects you from the rest of the people. The leaders will not be identified by the charisma. See, there are many charismatic people. See, for example, last century we had 3 very, very charismatic leaders like Stalin, Mao Zedong, and Hitler. But they inflicted maximum sufferings to the humanity, which no other tribes in the history have done so far. But it is the mission of the leaders that is very, very important, not their charisma. So, my dear students, you must set an example for others to emulate you. You must lead from the front. See, supposing something goes well, the entire credit should go to the team. But if something goes wrong, because you can never be a successful leader unless you take risks in life. You might succeed many times, but you might fail also. But if you fail, that responsibility you should take. But if you succeed, the entire credit should go to your team. That will be the character of a very, very true leader. I am sure you will all emulate that and set an example and for others to follow and give our country a very, very good leadership. So with these few words, ladies and gentlemen, I thank the organizers, Natarajan and his team, and also you, my dear students, for giving me this opportunity to preside over this very important leadership seminar. And I wish this seminar every success, and I wish you all good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now invite Professor Vinod Madhavan to introduce our chief guest, Dr. Anil Menon.
Thank you. It's my privilege and honor to introduce Anil Menon to all of you. Anil Menon joined CISCO in March 2009 as President, Smart Plus Connected Communities. In this role, Anil is responsible for developing the strategy and leading the global execution of CISCO's Smart Plus Connected Communities business. Under his leadership, CISCO has quickly become the industry and thought leader with hundreds of implementations around the globe that are using the network as the platform to drive economic, social, and environmental sustainability around the world. In addition to leading the global business, Anil serves as CISCO's Deputy Globalization Officer. In this role, he is helping CISCO identify and drive the development of new solutions, business models, and partners for its customers worldwide. Prior to joining CISCO, Anil was Vice President Corporate Strategy, IBM Growth Markets. In his 7 years with IBM, he held critical global roles at both the corporate and business unit levels. Appointed by IBM's CEO, Anil also served as a key member of the strategy team from 2005 to 2008. Prior to this, Anil was a successful academic and business consultant. He was on the graduate faculty and later was the department head marketing faculty at the Emory University, Atlanta, USA. Anil has been a Sony Fellow in Business Strategy from 1994 to 1996. He has been on the executive committee for the Strategy Council at Strategic Planning, an international business think tank originating from Harvard Business School. Anil was awarded the American Marketing Association's prestigious Paul Root MSI Award in 1999 for academic research in marketing and the Distinguished Marketing Practitioner Award in 2007 from Academy of Marketing Science for innovations in marketing practice. Anil is a member of the Board of Directors for the Center for Customer Insights at Yale University School of Management and is on the advisory board of Johns Hopkins University's Carey Business School. He is also a member of Citibank India's Advisory Board of Directors. Anil currently lives in Bangalore as part of his international assignment. The faculty of TAPMI had an interaction with Dr. Anil last evening. I don't want to reveal our experience with him because it's your turn to experience Anil today. I now invite Dr. Anil, our speaker for the 10th TAPMI Leadership Lecture, to deliver his talk. Sir.
I call on all the backbenchers. You have to know that. Anyone sitting in the back, I'm going to ask you for questions. Okay? This is the way I used to be when I was a professor. If you sat in the back, you got asked questions. If you sat in the front, I ignored you. But thank you for having me here, Dr. Balal. Thank you for speaking before me. I think you were setting me up. Now I have to come up with something inspiring over and above what you just said. So, Dr. Natarajan, thank you for having me here. And Professor Mahadevan, thank you for introducing me. And thank you all for showing up. Although I'm told that you all live on campus, so it's not like you have a lot of place to go. So I was first very excited when I saw all the people. Then I realized, where are they going to go on a Saturday evening? It's not like there's a lot on TV. India lost terribly yesterday. So it's not like you're going to sit and watch TV and cricket today. But what I'm going to do is I want to talk a little bit about, this is an interesting time. First let me say that this is my first time to Manipal, but I'm told this is not the first time a Menon from my family has come here. I didn't realize this till I came yesterday that my brother has come already and he's put a plant. So I'm like, as always, I'm always following him after the fact. And he, I think, was on the AACSB accreditation. And as he reminded me, I'm younger than you, but I've done a lot more than you. So I told him I'm going to TAPMI. He says, I've already done that. I'll let you know where. So here I am, several years later. But the other thing I was telling Harish, he was asking me yesterday, did you rest? Did you sleep? I sleep about 3 to 4 hours a day. That's about the amount of sleep that I get. Some of it is not because of choice. I have a 2-year-old at home. So she makes sure that we don't sleep too much. She sleeps. While she's sleeping, she almost has this third sense that mom and dad had just left the room, so she starts yelling. So that's why my wife is not here, because we brought her along with us on this trip. In fact, we thought she might enjoy it, but she didn't show up here today. So, but anyway, 3 hours to 4 hours is approximately what I sleep. But I did sleep a lot more here in Manipal. So I think I'm going to come here more often, because this is a place where I catch up on sleep. But this is an exciting time. The world is extraordinarily challenging. When you go, I was in Portugal recently, and if you think India has got challenges, go to Portugal. I was in Italy because we have a pretty big project there, because Expo 2020 is showing up in Milan. So my team does expos. So we just finished with Shanghai. We're doing Milan. And the thing that was there was, when you think about it and you read in the newspapers, you would think that Italy is a basket case. But northern Italy is doing just fine. It's southern Italy that doesn't do too well. So if you're a global leader, you have to figure out, where do you invest? When you think about India, you can't look at India as one country. You have to look at India as states. And there are some states that are doing better than the others. How do you explain that to the board of directors, who only read in the newspaper about somebody being burned up somewhere else or something else that has happened? So it's a very complex time. And in fact, Klaus Schwab, how many of you are familiar or heard of Klaus Schwab? He founded the World Economic Forum, Davos. So Klaus was telling me last year, when we were having, or a couple of years ago actually, he said, you know, it's interesting, Anil, in my experience, I don't think there are too many global leaders in this world. He said, you have CEOs of global companies, but they're not global leaders. In other words, they can tell you how many countries they're in. They can tell you their market shares in top 20 countries. They can tell you how many people they employ in which countries, but they can't tell you, and they're not globally aware. So my first thing that I would tell you is, picking up on Dr. Balal's point, is that I think as you come to a place such as this, or you go anywhere else, I think the priority that you should have is to become globally aware. It is not so much as whether you are a global worker or a global citizen, it's, are you globally aware of what is happening, and do you have the ability? And it's a very difficult concept. And I tell my daughter is 16 years old, my older daughter, she came to India at the age of 13. And it's funny, because she stays on Skype and talks to her friends in New York, and then she's with her friends on Facebook here in Bangalore. And we go to US, and when we went to the US, she was gone skiing, and I was bringing her back, and she landed and on our way from the airport, she says, Dad, it's strange. New York feels like a long time back. We just landed in India, and I feel like I've not left India. And I said, that's the way it should be. When you land in Singapore, or when you land in Oslo, or whether you land in Manipal, or whether you land in China, the worst thing you can do is say, this is not as good as New York, or this is not as good as India. You accept the world for what it is, and adapt to it, and learn how to work with it, and then you don't feel like anybody's a foreigner, you work with them. And increasingly, I find that when I land in Oslo, or when I land in London, while I'm there, I feel like I'm in London, and I know that is London. The moment I get on a plane and land in Paris, I'm in Paris. I don't sit there and saying, I don't like Paris compared to London. And it's the beginning of becoming a global citizen when you don't compare nations, you don't compare citizens, you don't compare places, because you never stand next to the same river twice. And if you leave a place and go to some other place and you try to recreate what you had, then you're never going to be happy in the place that you go to. And you accept the place for what it is, and then you work there. So when I came back to India after 31 years, I've been gone from India at the age of 19, and I came back to India, it's a different world altogether. The last 10 years itself is a different world. And I've been coming to India because I drove the IBM strategy in India. But people ask me, how do you like it in India? I was telling Dr. Balal that I was supposed to be here for 3 years, then I had my meeting with my chairman 2 weeks ago, and he said, Anil, I'd like for you to stay there for 5 more years. I'm like, are you kidding me? So we negotiated 3 more years. But the reason is because I'm in this country only about 8 days to 9 days or maybe 10 days in a month. And that, when you're traveling, so I'm saying I could be doing that sitting in New York. You know, I'll be in America for 10 days. Let me travel elsewhere. But I like it being here because I tell people that you pick up the newspaper in the US, it's boring. You pick up the newspaper here, every day is like an entertainment magazine. So, and I'm sitting here going, you can't make this stuff up. Even if you tried to write this thing up, you couldn't write it up. So why would I go to San Jose where everybody drives in a straight line, where somebody can jump right in front of your car, and you can improve your driving ability driving in India? So, but the thing is, the world is so dramatically different that being in a developing country makes all the difference. So the point being, coming back to India, people ask me, do you enjoy India? You said, you know, traffic is bad. And I said, yeah, the traffic is bad. I agree. But then you don't waste your time sitting in the traffic saying the traffic is bad. Look at the roads, and then you try to understand the question, who thought it's okay to put a wireless shop next to a mutton shop, and then a dentist next to the mutton shop, and a high-end retailer next to that? I said, you could not come up with a zoning policy such as that. So that will entertain you for 20 minutes of your traffic, but it also educates you, because what you realize is that that cigarette, I tell people, you know, OPEX, take a look around and you see, because people come back and saying, you know, cloud computing, buy by the hour, and I'm saying India has always done that. A country that came up with, you know, missed call leads the world in innovation. Yeah? I think Sunil Mittal is trying to figure out how do I make money on missed call, but that's his problem. But if you look at India, I said about 70 to 80% of the cigarettes are sold one at a time. If that is not an OPEX model and pay-as-you-go model, and I said, come here, study that, because you can come up with big computer designs out of it. So the point being is you go into different countries, you'll find things that are there. So what I'm going to talk about is why this is an interesting, exciting time. This is not a technology presentation, but obviously it is a technology basis. And many of you are going to be living in the world where you will do things that we have not even imagined today, even if you're not the ones doing it. So I'm not going to stand up here and say you have to be the ones doing it. We don't need prima donnas like Steve Jobs all the time. Not everybody is going to be the Steve Jobs, and you should not expect to be the Steve Jobs, because you're setting yourself up for a standard that's going to disappoint not only you but everybody else. But you can do a lot more than what Steve Jobs did by building on that and transforming the part of the world that you're in and the part of the organization that you're in. So I'm not standing up here to say you need to become like a Steve Jobs or a Sam Palmisano or a Sunil Mittal or any of these. All I am trying to say is that in your little sphere that you're in, whatever it is, you can make a transformative work and you can make a big difference. And in today's world, if you don't understand IT and the role of IT and what it actually can do for you, then you are not going to be much of a leader, whether you're political or otherwise. Because that is one of the major and the fourth utility after power, electricity, and telco. I don't think anybody who's an architect will build a building or build a campus such as this and say, you know, let's build a campus. We'll worry about water later. Or we'll worry about electricity later. We'll do the electrical stuff later. But even today, we are building campuses such as this. We're building cities such as this without thinking about the digital infrastructure. And the world has already moved to the world of digital infrastructure that we need to figure out. So I'm not going to talk about what that means, but I am going to talk to you about how do you transform a country or a nation or a village at the role of technology. But it's not the technology that's going to be transformative. It is going to be the business thinking and the business models that are above it. So with that as a basis, this is what we study. If you look at the world's top 10 economies, and you go back to 1820, India and China were the top two. Obviously, in 1820, US was only 1.8% of the world's GDP. Then you go forward in time to 1999, and you see US at 30% of the world's GDP, and obviously India is not on that list, but China made its list down from 28% to just 3% in 1999. But then you go forward and you think in terms of time, and 2009, China has already become number 3, back in the top, and Brazil has moved to 2.7 in the list. But you take a look at that list of the GDP, they're mostly European and Western countries. Then you look at 2050 and you see how many European countries are there. And I would argue that even the 2 that's on the list, only 1 will be on it. But all the others are Asian and what we today call the BRICM nations, whether it's India, Brazil, Mexico, Russia, and then Indonesia. Now, 10 richest economies in the world are not going to be, or the third, let me put it this way, the 10 largest economies in the world, but they're not necessarily the richest. The richest country, take Qatar out, because Qatar is not a very representative with 200,000 people and $1 trillion of profits just from gas. Let's put that aside. Singapore is the richest country in the world. Hong Kong is the second richest in the world this year. this decade. In 2050, Hong Kong and Singapore are still the top 2 richest countries in the world. India will not be in the top 10. China is not going to be in the top 10 on a per capita GDP basis. So the story here is that while India and China are going to be large and needs focus, you can't do what you're doing in India and China because they need different price point, they need different scale, they need different affordability, they need different products, they need different solutions, they need different business models. That is what I do as a globalization officer for CISCO. We grew, by the way, CISCO is 25 years old. I used to work at a company that just did 110 years. When I left IBM and moved to CISCO, and I told my dad and mom that I'm moving from IBM to CISCO, my father's immediate reaction was, yo, mone endavati. That was his first reaction. So I said, what do you mean? He says, so he didn't know how to ask me in a polite way, did you just get fired? And you're moved to CISCO? Because who leaves IBM in his mindset? An 85-year-old man cannot imagine somebody picking up the bags and moving from IBM because IBM is IBM and CISCO. He said, I've never even heard of this company. So I said, Dad, you do emails, right? Yeah. I said, 80% of all emails of all internet traffic goes through a CISCO routers and switch. He says, yeah, that's okay, but still, IBM is IBM. So my point being is, here's a company that is so large, has grown from $1 billion to $40 billion in 15 years, and that is a winner's curse. When you succeed again and again and again, you overestimate your abilities, you underestimate your problems, and then you can stumble. So we said, before we stumble, before we really go down, let's think about how do you become a global company, and we actually have a local presence in only 5 countries. In all of the other countries in the world, we go through partners, like India. We don't even have an ability to sign a contract in India. If I sign a contract, it has to go to the Netherlands to get done, because India is not a local company for CISCO. So one of my roles is to create 29 of those in the next 3 years. So as we think through this model, this is the world that you're going to be living in. This is the place that we are in. And everybody watches India. Everybody's troubled with what is happening in India, but they know we have to be in India. We have to figure out India. And what is your challenge? Majority of you are probably going to work in India as a global person. You're going to be in India, majority of you, but you will probably be doing business, whether it's in Paris, or whether it is in Belgium, or whether it is in Brazil, and you will travel a lot more, and you will do a lot more than what most of your generation is doing today. But the fact of the matter is, your responsibility is to make India easier for people to understand and to work in, and to make the country more of a global enterprise. And today, India is not that easy, even though it is much easier than a Korea. It's much easier than a China. It is much easier than a Japan. But the fact of the matter is, the difference between one of these countries on that list, whether it's India, Brazil, or UK, is not the growth rates. People fixate on the wrong things for emerging countries. The growth rate and all of those are symptoms of an emerging country. The key difference is lack of institutions in emerging countries. Lack of stable political institutions, lack of stable financial institutions, lack of stable structural institutions, whether it is reporting, financial reporting or otherwise, lack of clarity of institutions. Your role is to create that clarity in the structure of the financial enterprises, the business enterprises, the political enterprises, and it is that clarity and the structure of those institutions that make a country a developed market versus an undeveloped market. In fact, when you go and work in a UK or you work in a Germany or you work in a Japan, it is that deadly boredom of predictability that makes it a developed market. And the lack of predictability of India or a Brazil or a Malaysia or Indonesia is what makes it exciting, but makes it very difficult to invest ahead. So that is what I think all of us should be sitting and thinking about is, what do I do to create that predictability to make India a true global market? Now, by the way, having said this, this is just one tip of the iceberg. Take a look at the other factors that are at play. The world is aging. Then there's a whole set of countries that are shrinking, and mostly those are European countries. So China is an aging country and has got issues. India, on the other hand, is getting younger daily. 60% of India today is under the age of 27. I know you all know the statistics, you all fit into that. Now the problem, let me tell you this, There is no such thing as a demographic dividend when 600 million children in India are living in rural areas where over 60% of them are in schools that have only one teacher. And that one teacher has an absenteeism of 40 to 50%. This is one of the most dangerous